part 2. So we've gone quite out there. It's about balance here, so we got to wrap it back in. So to wrap this back in is that this is where the balance comes into. And people talk about balance. It's like you're only living in this world, bro. Gee, it must suck. Because like the truth is, right, when we come to comprehend at the end of our lives that we've followed what the world's told us, we've done our job, we start asking questions like, well, some of the questions are, how do I open my mind? Because, people start to examine and see other higher possibilities unraveling, which are almost like coincidental. But people don't believe in coincidences, or people don't believe in infinite possibilities because we're so attached to this reality. Because this reality teaches us, programs us to only believe this state of existence. And when we start to acknowledge that to truly unlock ourselves, and there's a lot of depth in this, but a lot of it goes into controlling us into a state of pain and control, because we don't want to feel pain. So we certainly follow a path which, as long as we're causing pain, we don't feel it. And this is very interesting, because the human mind is following an agenda which is being forced upon from a paradigm of perceptional anger. And if we live within this anger paradigm, we don't necessarily feel pain. We start to develop traits as of more serving pain. And as long as we're serving pain, we stop feeling the pain and we become the pain. So we don't necessarily feel it, but we definitely serve it. And this is serving this agenda within the reality which we live in, to an extent of which it takes from people. And when we start to become aware that this reality thrives on anger and frustration, so when we become beings of anger and frustration, we're really feeding this reality and fueling this reality within this perceptional existence, which many of us exist within. It's like a vibrational band of frequency. And if we live within that frequency, we are either on either side of the seesaw. It's either we're serving pain or we're feeling the pain. And now the OG within all of this is not to serve the pain or feel the pain. It's just to become aware of existence itself. And this is, to wrap it in, it's like this reality is to become aware of this reality, and not to, of course, to live within it, because we are physical to an extent. We must live within it, but we don't necessarily need to obey by it. We can live within it, but we don't need to obey by the norms of this reality. We don't need to obey by the dictatorship of this reality. And the dictatorship really comes to the mental programming. Is you have to believe this, or if you don't, you're going to be an outcast. You have to trust in this. If you don't, you're going to be untrustworthy. It's almost like the opposite. You have to do this or you're going to be, untrustworthy. And people get fearful and they just follow the norms of this reality because they don't want to look like an outcast. They don't want to look or start saying things which they shouldn't, which will bring to the attention of people who will then call them disgraces. And we become ultimately afraid to serve justice. And that's what this reality really wants. It doesn't want people serving justice, because as long as people aren't serving justice, then people can control and rule a frequency which ultimately permits suffering and feeds off suffering and anger and frustration. So very interesting stuff. Pow.